The nation's daily COVID-19 tally exceeds 90,000 again. Authorities are torn between maintaining current distancing rules and easing them. Multiple reports contradict Moscow's claim of a partial drawdown. U.S. officials claim Russia deployed more troops to the border. President Moon Jae-in invites officials from foreign investor firms to the top office. With FDI pledges to South Korea reaching record highs last year, he thanks them and encourages more investment.
Well, it's great to have you with us. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. Another record high number of coronavirus infections in the nation. As of 9 p.m. local time, the figure surpassed 100,000. Authorities will announce some changes to distancing measures, likely easing rules on gatherings and restaurant operating hours. There are also plans to provide free test kits to students and school staff. Shin Ye-eun starts us off.
South Korea on Thursday reported 93,135 new infections. This is another record high tally and a jump of around 3,000 from a day ago. The number of critically ill patients also went up by 76 to 389. COVID-19 figures are going up as experts forecast. Already, we've seen the number of new infections rise 70% from the tally reported last Thursday. Compared to 2 weeks ago, today's figure represents a fourfold increase. One health expert analyzing data from the National Institute for Mathematical Sciences said Korea's Omicron peak could be in mid-March. The expert said the country may see up to 270,000 daily infections before the numbers start tapering off. On Friday, authorities are set to announce the virus prevention measures from next week. The most probable scenario is easing measures like changing the 6-person limit on social gatherings, which could be increased to 8 people, and the 9 p.m. restrictions on restaurant and cafe operating hours, which could be extended to 10 p.m. The Education Ministry are also still planning on having students return to classrooms in the spring semester. To make sure this is safe, they said they would provide more than 60 million test kits to students and staff free of charge. The ministry recommended all students test themselves twice a week, preferably on Sunday and Wednesday nights. All staff are being asked to test themselves weekly on Sundays. While these guidelines aren't mandatory, which means students and teachers won't be punished for going to school untested, they've stirred up much controversy. More than 80,000 people have signed a petition on the Blue House website against the use of self-test kits at kindergartens and elementary schools. Their concern was that this measure would make testing students with no symptoms become the norm. Meanwhile, some parents said they were relieved, believing many students will choose to get tested before attending school. Shin Ye-eun, Arirang News.
The online reservation period for the Novavax coronavirus vaccine is set to begin in South Korea next Monday. First, it's for those over 18 that are unvaccinated or didn't get their third shots due to concerns of side effects of mRNA vaccines. Those eligible for the Novavax shot can apply for the date of their choice from Monday, with the jabs to be administered starting March 7th. In case of experiencing trouble making online reservations, one can contact municipal government call centers via 1339. The number of new infections is coming down in various parts of the world. Many countries are easing restrictions and in some cases scrapping them altogether. Lee Jae-myung has the latest.
According to the World Health Organization, the number of new COVID-19 infections last week decreased by 19% compared to the week before. In Europe, the number dropped by 16%. In the United States, the number of daily new infections are on track to drop to pre-Omicron surge levels, with the 7-day average of daily infections at 140,000 as of Tuesday from a peak of almost 807,000 cases on January 14th. Over in Europe, France is allowing the reopening of nightclubs that have been ordered to close in December of last year. Food consumption in theaters, stadiums, and on trains and planes is also being permitted. Also, those who have been vaccinated will no longer be forced to wear a mask indoors at public facilities starting on the 28th. In Switzerland, people can start visiting restaurants, stores, and cultural facilities regardless of their vaccination status. Austria is also scaling back its social distancing measures with plans to lift most of the country's COVID-19 restrictions by March 5th. As for Germany, the country is considering increasing the number allowed at gatherings to up to 20 people if all attendees are vaccinated. Over in Canada, vaccinated tourists are no longer required to get PCR tests starting on the 28th. Instead, tourists can get an antigen test a day before the departure of their flight to Canada or upon arrival to the country by land. 이시우, Arirang News.
With claims of troop withdrawal met with skepticism, Moscow released a video as evidence. Meanwhile, South Korea plans to evacuate some 50 of its citizens still in Ukraine within this week. Bae-yeon brings the updates.
Russia's defense ministry published a video on Thursday showing that its troops and military equipment are returning to their bases after completing exercises. The ministry said tanks and armored vehicles will travel around 1,000 kilometers by rail and have begun moving back to their permanent points of deployment. Following the announcement, a Kremlin spokesperson said Russia's withdrawal of forces will take some time. This comes as Russia's claims that it has started to withdraw troops were met with skepticism from the West. Citing an unnamed senior U.S. government official, AP News reported Thursday that Russia had in fact increased the number of troops by as many as 7,000, with some arriving as recently as Wednesday, but did not provide any evidence. Amid ongoing tensions, South Korea's foreign ministry said Thursday that about 50 Korean citizens who have not yet left Ukraine will be doing so this week.
As of 6 p.m. February 16th Ukraine local time, there are 107 South Korean citizens remaining in Ukraine, and around 50 of them plan to evacuate within this week.
Also on Thursday, Russian-backed rebels in the eastern part of Ukraine claimed that the Ukrainian government forces have opened fire in their territory 4 times in the last 24 hours. According to a statement issued Thursday by representatives of the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic, Ukrainian forces crudely violated the ceasefire regime using heavy weapons. But the Ukraine's military denied the accusation, saying it was actually the rebels who fired shells, including some that struck a kindergarten. Bae-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's National Security Council is setting up a round-the-clock emergency system aimed at protecting its citizens and businesses in Ukraine and take all necessary measures in regard to Korea's recent ban on travel to that country. In Thursday's weekly meeting, the members agreed to continuously review ways to minimize the tension's impact on Seoul's exports and local businesses and to manage the impact on supply chains. The NSC also discussed efforts to resume dialogue with Pyongyang based on the joint statement issued by the foreign ministers of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. The top diplomats highlighted that they're open to talks without preconditions. The Beijing Winter Games are now approaching their last few days, and this evening the national women's curling team ended its Olympic campaign after finishing 8th overall. We have on the line our Olympic correspondent Han Sung-woo with the details. Sung-woo, Team Kim wasn't able to repeat its Cinderella run from 4 years ago.
Unfortunately not, Daniel. I'm sorry to say the Pyeongchang 2018 silver medalists have failed to make it to the semifinals, losing 4-8 to Sweden in their final round-robin session earlier today. Team Kim ended their Olympic run with a record of 4 wins and 5 losses to finish 8th behind the United States and China, who, despite sharing the same record, beat Korea in each of their round-robin sessions. In an interview afterwards, skip Kim Eun-jung thanked fans for their support, while Kim Kyung-hae, the vice captain, added they'll continue to train hard for the upcoming World Championships and the next Winter Games. Advancing to Friday's semis instead will be Sweden, Great Britain, Switzerland, and Japan.
But great efforts, though. We saw a lot of highlights, some come from behind efforts, some clutch plays, though. Sung-woo, what about in speed skating? 3 of Korea's very own competed in the women's 1,000-meter, correct?
That is correct, Daniel. Kim Min-sun, Kim Hyun-young, and Park Ji-woo finished far from the podium, 16th, 25th, and 30th, respectively, but still showed the world that Korea's speed skating future shines bright. The women's 1,000-meter gold medal went to Takaki Miho of Japan, who blazed the way to an Olympic record of just over 1 minute and 13 seconds. Jutta Leerdam of the Netherlands took silver, while Team USA's Brittany Bowe, skating in the final pair, won bronze. Another Dutch competitor, the legendary Irene Wust, meanwhile, finished her career's last trip around the Olympic Oval at 6th. Competing for a medal in the men's 1,000-meter tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Korea time will be Team Korea's Cha Min-gyu and Kim Min-seok. Both repeated their Pyeongchang feats in Beijing, with Cha winning silver in the 500 and Kim taking bronze in the 1,500. So a podium finish is definitely a possibility on Friday as well.
In figure skating, I'm sure Queen Yana is telling the heir apparents that don't try to be the next me, be the first you, Young. And I'm aware the free skate competition of women's skating is taking place as we speak.
It is, Daniel. Korea's Kim Ye-lim, who finished 9th in the short on Tuesday, just performed hers to receive a score of 134.85, reserving her a spot among the top 10 overall. 2020 Winter Youth Olympics champion Yu Young, meanwhile, is set to skate hers any moment now. Yu was deducted points in her 6th-place short program for not rotating enough during her triple axel. This time, she'll have to flawlessly execute her difficult signature move to have any shot at a medal over the ROC's so-called Quad Squad and Japan's Kari Sakamoto and Wakaba Higuchi. That's all I have for now, Daniel, but I'll be back with more tomorrow.
Ruling party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung and the main opposition's Yoon Suk-yeol are running neck and neck in opinion polls. He campaigned in Seoul, considered a toss-up in the March 9th election. He stormed the northern half of the capital, addressing specific issues that impact each area. Kim Do-yeon zooms in on the activities and messages.
On third day of campaigning, the candidate for the ruling Democratic Party of Korea, Lee Jae-myung, went to the spot where he stood 5 years ago when Korea was writing a new chapter in its history, Gwanghwamun Square, where the candlelight protests effectively put his party in the Blue House as a mass movement called for the impeachment of then-President Park Geun-hye.
The election on March 9th needs to carry forward this historic change and the wishes of our proud people. That's what the people want. It's what our politicians need to do, and it's the right direction for our country.
He also said his vision, if he's elected, is to listen to the people and to lead in the right direction. In the afternoon, he held a rally in an area known for its many individually owned stores.
Here at Wangsimni Station, candidate Lee focused on appealing to small business owners. One pledge he made was that he will extend business hours until midnight for customers who've gotten a booster shot.
He also proposed more financial support to help the small business owners who've been struggling in the pandemic.
Through a debt amnesty, the nation will absorb the debts incurred because of COVID-19. This will make it possible to do business as normal.
He reiterated he will increase the current supplementary budget bill to at least $41 billion. If that can't be done, he said he'll issue an emergency authorization to make the money available to those who need it. For his last rally, he stopped at one of the country's most famous hangouts for young people, the college neighborhood of Hongdae. There he promised to make life better for the younger generation. He said he knows the troubles they face and promised fair opportunities for everyone. On Friday, the candidate will go down to the liberal strongholds of Jeollanam-do province and Gwangju. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
People Power Party presidential candidate Yoon Suk-yeol's campaign focused on addressing the housing market. He also highlighted the corruption scandals surrounding the DP's nominee. Lee Kyung-eun has the details.
On day 3 of the campaign, Yoon Suk-yeol of the main opposition People Power Party also targeted the capital region, traveling through Gyeonggi-do province and Seoul. And Yoon focused on the housing market, the biggest issue of this election according to polls in the region hit hardest by skyrocketing housing prices. At the first stop, Anseong, Yoon blamed the situation on the Moon Jae-in administration.
Ansong shows the fourth highest hike in housing prices in Gyeonggi-do province at 38%. What's driving up the price? Has your income gone up 38%?
In Yongin, you made the same rhetoric, calling on the need for a new government. Yoon Suk-yeol's other key message directly attacks his main rival, Lee Jae-myung of the ruling Democratic Party, over several corruption scandals. It is seen as a strategic effort by Yoon to mobilize supporters right here where Lee served as former governor. Yoon's offensive on Lee Jae-myung heated up in Seongnam, the very place where the controversial land development took place during his time as the city's mayor. In Seoul, Yoon once again addressed the housing market issues. In Songpago and Seochogu districts, two of the areas with the most expensive housing prices outside of Gangnam.
You are not rich even if you own a house that's worth $2 million. Because you only have one house, and you give all your income to pay taxes on it.
Yoon had previously pledged to reduce comprehensive real estate taxes and to supply a total of 1.8 million homes in the capital region alone. Then Yoon met up with former lawmaker Yoo Seung-min, who vowed unconditional support for Yoon. This completes a united front for Yoon's campaign, with all his former rivals in the PPP primary now part of his campaign, including runner-up in the 2017 presidential election, Hong Jun-pyo. On Friday, you will head again to the conservative stronghold of Daegu. 이경은, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Justice Party candidate Sang-jung visited Ulsan on Thursday and met local shipbuilding workers. Ahn Cheol-soo from the People's Party kept his campaign on hold while he paid condolences to the campaign workers who died on Tuesday. Kim Hyun-sung tells us more.
Justice Party Sang-jung's campaign headed to the southeast. Her team on Thursday visited the port city of Ulsan. The city is home to one of the world's biggest shipbuilding companies, Hyundai Heavy Industries. Here, Shin visited the company's labor unions as part of her efforts to appeal to workers.
I promised that I would make a welfare state with a 4-day work week. South Korea currently works 1 month more than the OECD average each year.
Sang-jung also promised to turn Ulsan into the center of green mobility and provide the city with 10,000 electric cars. For candidate Ahn Cheol-soo from the People's Party, his campaign is on hold for a second day. Candidate Ahn spent Thursday paying his respects to the deceased campaign workers. 2 workers died on the campaign trail on Tuesday, with carbon monoxide poisoning suspected to be the cause of death. Ahn on Thursday afternoon first visited the funeral of the regional election commissioner, situated at Cheonan. In the evening, Ahn is visiting the funeral of the bus driver in Kimhae. Ahn will most likely stay at the funeral site until funeral procession, which is scheduled to take place Friday morning. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Despite the pandemic, foreign direct investment pledges to South Korea hit a record high last year. President Moon Jae-in invited officials from foreign invested firms to the top office to thank them and provide encouragement. Jung brings the highlights from that session.
Foreign direct investment in South Korea last year hit an all-time high of nearly $30 billion, even amid falling global FDI due to the pandemic. To show appreciation for the largest ever volume of foreign investment in the country and to encourage further investment, President Moon Jae-in on Thursday met with foreign investors at the Blue House. Officials from a total of 24 companies were at the meeting, including representatives from the pharmaceutical giants Pfizer and Merck.
외국인 투자 기업의 매출과 고용은 한국 경제를 활성화하고 경쟁력을 높이는 원동력입니다. 한국은 외국인 투자에 힘입어 새로운 성공 신화를 쓰고 있습니다. 외국인 투자 기업 역시 한국 투자로 더 크게 성장하고 있으리라 확신합니다.
He added that the average foreign direct investment to South Korea over the last 5 years has jumped by 34% compared to that of the previous administration. Moon said the government is providing a lot of incentives for foreign invested companies.
투자액의 일정 비율을 현금 지원하고 임대료를 감면하여 입지를 지원하고 있으며 투자에 필요한 자본재의 관세를 면제하고 지방세와 법인세, 소득세를 감면하고 있습니다. 외국인 투자 기업의 청년 고용도 다양하게 지원하고 있습니다.
Investment related to the Korean New Deal projects is gaining steam, including FDI in future cars, renewable energy, vaccines, ICT, and new industries. In order to attract more FDI, the government will invest almost $70 million this year into foreign-invested businesses related to stabilizing supply chains and carbon neutrality. The Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy also said at the meeting that as the investment in South Korea was done with trust, the government will continue to support them by improving the investment environment. 엄지영, Arirang News.
The largest pension provider in the Netherlands, APG, which has more than $700 billion under management, has called on South Korea's top companies to commit more to reducing carbon emissions. It sent letters to the leaders of the 10 Korean firms it's invested in, urging them to adopt a more ambitious climate and carbon reduction strategy. They include Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Steel, LG Display, and LG Chem. APG also called on them to communicate their energy transition plans to their long-term investors and carefully consider their suggestions. Last year, APG sold its stake in the Korean state utility company KEPCO in protest of its plans for new coal power stations. Hanbok, the traditional attire, is an important part of Korea's cultural heritage, but where does its beauty come from? Are there any artists infusing it into their own artwork? Kim Bo-kyung went out to find the answers.
Vivid and strong colors, but not overbearing. This is hanbok, Korea's traditional attire, often called an integral part of Korean lives for centuries. It has been part of Korea's culture since before the Three Kingdoms period, and for hundreds of years, our ancestors have worn this two-piece outfit, which is different from other countries' traditional clothes, such as China's qipao and Japan's kimono. Its colors and lines. These are what an expert described as hanbok's biggest uniqueness and its own beauty. Colors are from natural ingredients, flowers, roots of fruits, and leaves, and so they are soft and delicate.
Our ancestors matched these colors harmoniously. They used complementary colors for the outer fabric and the lining. For example, if the outer one is red, the inner will be blue. Two transparent but different colors will be matched and make another beautiful, new but natural color. The lines of the sleeves inseam, the skirt's pleats while moving when wearing hanbok are another mesmerizing aspect too.
Renowned hanbok designer Park Sul-lyo says appreciating its beauty is one thing. Another is learning how to wear it.
네, 제가 지금 이 한복을 입었는데
네.
어떤 것들을 입은 건가요?
지금 예쁜 속바지를 비단 속바지를 입었고 버선을 신었고요. 그다음에 속치마를 입었습니다. 그런 다음에 이제 마무리로 겉치마를 입었는데 옛날에는 한 7가지 정도를 속옷으로 입었다고 해요. 근데 지금은 그렇게까지는 할 필요가 없고요. 그리고 옛날에는 속저고리를 입었는데 지금은 속저고리를 입지를 않아요. 그냥 속저고리 입지 않기 위해서 이렇게 다 살갗에 다도 부드러운 비단을 안에다가 다 넣거든요.
Vibrant colors and simple curved lines are enough to steal artists' hearts and turn hanbok's beauty into their own. Dubbed 21st century genre art, artist Kim Hyun-jung shows her free-spirited and bold characters, reviving hanbok as a beautiful yet refreshing attire for the modern day. Hanbok has also inspired street art. A South Korean graffiti artist based in the U.S. is best known for photorealistic murals of African-American women in traditional Korean hanbok. Knowing South Korea's cultural heritage and further expanding its boundaries could be the first step in learning to appreciate its beauty. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News. The
The current bone-chilling conditions will start to ease off tomorrow daytime. Highs in the capital will be jumping up to 6 degrees Celsius, which is warmer than the seasonal average. But wide temperature gaps of more than 10 degrees are expected as mornings will stay cold. Under such conditions, our immune systems become weaker, so please be extra careful not to catch a cold. Meanwhile, for eastern regions, the air is very dry. Dry weather advisories have been issued for Gyeongsang-do province and parts of the east coast. Alerts have also been added to the capital region as well. Keep in mind that gusty winds are also in the forecast. For those in the area, please be careful with anything that can start a fire. Morning lows are range from -12 to 2 degrees nationwide. Seoul will start off at -7 degrees. And expect partly cloudy to overcast skies for the daytime. Seoul will get up to 6 degrees. Gyeongju and Busan will make it to 9 degrees Celsius. The cold wave will take a brief respite on Saturday. Thereafter, temperatures are forecast to be lower than the seasonal norms. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.
Everyone knows I'm passionate. Know why? Look at how passionate Koreans are. And you know I'm fast. Don't blink. Korean move fast too.